All right, Locked on Gamecocks. Today we talk about the 5-3 loss, game one of the South Carolina Clemson baseball series. Gamecocks go down in Clemson. That's the bad. The good, Nick Emmanwori with an absolutely historic day in Indy. We talk about all that and more. Locked on Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked on Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked on Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler. Thank you for joining us to make Locked on Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we're a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, let's get the crappy part out of the way now. The game just ended. South Carolina goes down in game one to Clemson. And we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about some good stuff afterwards. So just bear with us. Make sure you stick around for that. Because as bad as the baseball game was, it wasn't that terrible. But as bad as the ending was and the final score was, what happened today from South Carolina football in Indianapolis was historic. A local kid from Irmo made himself millions of dollars. And also on top of that, it was a huge, prideful day for the program up there at the NFL Combine. But first, let's talk about what happened in the Diamond. South Carolina falls 5-3 to the Clemson Tigers. It sucks. It's not fun losing to Clemson. It's not fun losing. I thought football was tough with their fans. God, just not a great high-level baseball IQ, I get the feeling of, from that bunch right behind home plate. It was a tough scene for most of the night. Now, here's the thing. You lose, I hate to use this phrase ever, fair and square. It sounds like a child thing to say, but you lose that game 5-3, and you lose it partially because of your own shortcomings and mistakes and all that kind of stuff. I mean, like, the bats were not great at most of the time. You didn't take advantage of a lot of stuff that were in opportunities that you were able to get or even earn. There was a couple of good signs. It wasn't like all the bats were cold. I thought, like Milwaukee was great. There was, I think he struck out in the opening inning, but had a great rest of the game. Sack fly at one point, got a walk or hit by pitch, something like that. Becker was not as sharp as you want him to be, or as he's been coming into the game. You talk about a guy that through 2 starts had 0 walks and 17 Ks, which is, really good. Really good. He was not sharp tonight. Fastball set about 89 to 90, which is fine. That's especially from a lefty. That's nothing to be overly concerned about. But the slider occur, I think it's a slider. It was off. Just the command in general was off. It wasn't like he was missing arm side or glove side. He was just missing a lot. Now, it didn't help that the umpire was squeezing both sides pretty badly. Like the umpiring was not bad in favor of Clemson, in my opinion. Now, in the bottom of the ninth, there were some frustrations of, that first strikeout was at his shins, which is just, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I as a hitter, there's nothing worse than getting the bat taken out of your hands. And I always got very frustrated with that because, a bad strike zone turns things around. Like there's a big difference between having a 2-0 count and a 1-1 count. There's a big difference between having a 2-1 or 3-1 count versus a 2-2 count or a 1-2 count, obviously. So that part of the game for me especially was always very frustrating as a hitter because, if you have a wide zone, that's one thing. It was a small zone for the most part, but it also was a situation where it felt like a lot of times the ire and anger from the fans in the stands, I don't say it paid off dividends, but it just there was a lot of reactionary calls where, a fastball in or a fastball low is called a ball on one pitch, and then either a dugout is upset or the fans in the stands are upset. That same pitch or a pitch that's that much off at a different part of the plate or a different part of the strike zone ends up being called a strike. Now, they fought back. Talmadge was great. I thought he came into the game hitting 105. And he had he played a key part in trying to pull this thing back to not even, but getting you back in that game when you were down 4-0 to start. Like I said, Becker gives up a couple crooked numbers early. Not great from a command standpoint. The other thing too is, listen, like sometimes I've said this before in this sport and in this game. Listen, sometimes you have to just tip your cap and say, good job. Like some it's, as much as it sucks, sometimes you have to just tip your cap and say, like that guy outplayed you, he shoved you, whatever. And today it was Aiden Knack. We talked about him coming into this game where he had a six flat ERA, giving up 6 runs in 9 innings pitched. In 9 innings pitched. We also talked about the fact that, coming into the game, he had 15 strikeouts in 9 innings, and you saw that today. What was most impressive about Knack was, as a righty, he was pumping about 95 in the first inning. He sat around 92 to 93. He could get it up there around mid-90s if he had to. But he in the early going, when juices are flowing, you're amped, the adrenaline's going, all that kind of stuff, especially in a rivalry game like this, because let's once again call it what it is. There's nothing else like this in college baseball. There's just not. Like, you just get the palpable feeling that this means every out, every pitch has something riding on it. And watching him sit at 92 as a righty, a not a very sharp, but not a very big breaking, but a pretty sharp. I would assume it's a slider just because the lack of depth it had when he would turn it over. That was fine, right? That pitch sat at about 86 miles an hour, which is fine. Fastball sitting there at 92, like I said. It is. I have never agreed with this. I personally love this style of pitching when you're going to attack hitters, but a lot of pitching coaches in college, especially in a game like this where it's a game of failure, 3 out of 10 get you in the Hall of Fame, but it's a game of failure. So going righty changeup and throwing a changeup at 76 to 78 when you're throwing 92 from the same slot, same arm angle, everything, tip your cap. Like, that was, he shoved. And so, you're still able to get a couple of runs off of him late in his outing, pull it within 4-3, gave up a tack run to go down 5-3, which is fine. Kind of came from an unexpected place in the lineup where a kid that's majority of the time, I don't want to say he's a slap hitter by any means, but not a guy you expect to go yard. But when you play in a field that is 310 to left field at a college level in metal bats, you're going to see balls fly out of the yard. So there's that. Just the only thing that stuck out to me from from a standpoint of where you missed out on opportunities. I'm a big baseball guy. I'm a big analytics guy when it comes to baseball. Not a big analytics guy, but a big stats and numbers guy when it comes to baseball. I was not ever trying to work counts as a hitter. I was dead red first pitch. If you were throwing me a fastball over the plate, like, I was going to put it back in play. I love the approach that South Carolina hitters took, and especially with the strike zone, it's a much better approach to be disciplined, not put a lot of swings on pitches where, like I said, like if you're going to shrink the strike zone that much, there's not really a need to be going up there and attacking and being way overly aggressive. And I thought South Carolina had a good approach at the plate. What bothered me was in a couple of innings when you have, the opening inning in the first inning when you got runners on first and second with 1 or 2 outs and you're not able to push across any runs. Both those players get on without a hit. You have to take advantage of stuff like that. Leadoff walks. This is a stat that I will say 1,000 times this season. It's a stat that my college coach told me, and for whatever reason, that has stuck to me like glue for 20 years. Leadoff walks, score 63% of the time. And you had a leadoff hit by pitch in the 9th inning, and you were not able to push the run across. You missed a game-tying home run by inches, and that sucked. But yeah, leadoff walks, they score 63% of the time. There was another incident where you either had a hit by pitch or it was a leadoff walk. I want to say it was a walk. I don't know. It was either a walk or hit by pitch. I know the one in the ninth was a hit by pitch because it hit him on the knee. But in like the fourth or fifth inning, when you got a leadoff walk in and you're trying to, claw back into this thing, and then I think he ends up striking out the side, or at least he struck out the next two batters in a row. So all in all, it's a fun baseball game. It was a good baseball game. Sucks coming on losing in. There's a reason you play a series and you get to have 3 of these. So tomorrow, bounce back. It'll be interesting to see what they throw out there because, I didn't expect Knack to go tonight, and he did. And like I said, he pitched very, very well. So that's kind of what you're going to face with this team. Power pitching, really, really good, disciplined, fundamentally sound baseball. And that's what they did. So I don't think it's anything where you need to hang your heads and be miserable at the fact that you lose in a 5-3 ball game. I will say, I wish that we got the same Becker we saw in the first 2 games. And I bet you 9 times out of 10, that's the Becker we're going to get. You just didn't get it today. And that's fine. That's the game of baseball. You're not always, sometimes as a hitter, that thing looks like a beach ball, and sometimes it looks like a BB. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things you gotta shake it off and get up there tomorrow and be fine. All right, that is all for the baseball game. Now we're gonna go to a quick little break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about a historic day in Indy for Nick Emmanwori and also some other South Carolina Gamecocks that really showed out. But Nick Emmanwori made himself several millions of dollars today. Several $1 million. That's the correct phrasing of that. Anyway, before we go to break, I do want to tell you real quick about a new partner we have, and that is our friends at Fabric. Now, Fabric is not somebody you guys have heard me talk about before, but you will hear me talk about moving forward. Life moves fast, okay? Especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take the first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You can be covered in 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is even required. Now, as someone that is looking to be as safe as possible and start a family soon with our lovely live producer, Allie, I love the offers and the keys to service that Fabric is able to give. You can get $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. So protecting your loved ones doesn't have to break the bank. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Reminder, that is meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. MEET fabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policy is issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Make sure you go check out Fabric today. All right, make sure you check out the rest of the show here in a second. We'll be right back with more Locked On Gamecocks. Oh boy. All right, we're back. I'm glad we didn't do this live after the game. I'll tell you that, because I was on the phone with our former live producer, Allie, and this is a PG show that doesn't have any cuss words. That ump was not my favorite. I'll tell you another thing that wasn't my favorite here too, guys, was, and maybe they better redo this on Sunday when this game comes to Founders, because Dabo Swinney getting a bunch of airtime wearing jeans of all things, by the way. Never seen that happen in my life. It's always pleated khakis that he's sprinting down that hill in. Dabo gets a bunch of airtime, which was whatever. I just hope that we get the same thing from Beamer, right? Like it seemed. Also, Dabo called the ump a ref, and that made me want to die inside a little bit. I didn't enjoy that part at all. All right, let's get to the good news of the day. All right, and that is this. I have been looking forward to this moment. I'm not waxing poetic. I'm not being exaggerative. I'm not embellishing. I don't even feel like I'm being dramatic. And as you guys know, I say it all the time, I'm always dramatic. So here's the thing. I've been looking forward to Nick Emmanwori's Scout Day at the Combine for months. Like it's the moment he had that pick six that was overturned against LSU. It was the first time I was like, oh my God, that guy can fly. And he is big. Like, he's big, but for the most part, he's not playing in a situation, even though he's had multiple pick six returns, and he had one against Kentucky a couple weeks prior, or maybe a week prior. You didn't have a ton of opportunities to see him wide ass open running down the field. And I mean wide open as in like full stride, all like full gear, like everything. I always compare it to like a base runner going around, like hitting the triple when you come around second, how you are just like wide open, like starting to slide into third and beat out a throw. In football, it's very rare where you have so much happens in a tight, compact space. So much happens in like the box. So much happens in a phone booth, all that kind of stuff. It's very rare you get to see somebody just wide open running down the field and have that level of athleticism on display. I've been looking forward to Nick Emmanwori's Combine for a while, and we've talked about it on here a bunch. We talked about it like leading up to the preview and all those things. I think in my head, I was like, I know he's going to put on a show. We all knew that, right? And it's still almost shocking to see the level of athleticism he put on display today. If you missed it, or you don't have social media, or you're just now hearing about what he did in Indianapolis today, Nick Emmanwori, former 3-star recruit from Irmo, South Carolina, goes to Indy as a projected late first-round pick. He weighed in at 6'3" and an eighth, so over 6'3". He dropped down to 220 pounds from 230. Still looked very physical. The comments that kept being made about just him physically were like he looks like a linebacker, or he looks like an 80s level safety, like one of those like 6'4", 230 Steve Atwater, for my old heads in here, type safeties. Okay, now Emmanwori starts his day with the vertical jump. He goes 43 inches. He goes 43 inches. So everyone is already turning their heads, and they're like, whoa, like what? This kid, as big as that is, 43 inches. All right. Sorry, we had a work-related pause. The 43-inch vert was big strictly because when you look at his size, I knew he had hops. I knew he was an athlete. I did not. 40 is one thing. 43 is another. So then he goes to the broad jump, and that's when you started to see like, oh, this kid's twitchy. Like the twitchy part of it is also unreal. And he jumps an 11-foot 6-inch broad jump. Now, all of these things are really impressive. Okay. There is a thing called a relative athletic score, and it's a weird little thumbnail type, like one sheet graphic that has come out, and it's company that, excuse me, that puts together stats and compilation of stats from the Combine specifically every single year, and they have this massive database of every single player that has gone through the Combine since 1987 at every single position. It's extensive as you can imagine. And they have it by every player at every position that's gone through since 1987. Okay. We are talking about 37 years of data. I guess it'll be 38 now. God, I'm about to turn 39. Oh my God. Anyway, it's out of 10. And you've seen people like yesterday, Shamar Stewart for A&M. He has a 9.99. He was the third highest rated defensive end since 1987 in the relative athletic score. Nick Emmanwori was a 10.00. It was so impressive as to what he did because it's the relative athletic score based off your position. He was so impressive by what he did. He filled out a 10.00 at his position. They started using the same metric and his numbers in comparison to where he would rank at other positions. He would have been top 5 at receiver. He was a 9.99 at receiver. We toss around phrases all the time like one of one, unicorn, elite. I don't think that even does it justice, right? So anyway, he has an 11-foot-6-inch broad jump, and then it's time for the 40. He runs a 4.4 flat unofficial 40, 4.40. First 40. Then he comes through. The level of focus this kid had, and they're talking about it on air, and it says, and one of the guys says, I think it was like Charles something, I can't remember his name, but it's one of the on-air announcers, and he says he got a text from the guy training Emmanwori a week ago. And what he said to him, just a very simple text message, was prepare to be astounded. And with that, they cut to his second 40 time, and he ran a 4.38. So Nick Emmanwori showed up at over 6'3", so 6'3 and 1/8 of an inch, 220 pounds. He ran a 4.38 40, had a 43-inch vert, and 11 feet 6-inch broad jump. I fully understand that those things do not make you an all NFL caliber player or a top 10 pick or an All-American or a potential NFL Pro Bowler or a Super Bowl champion or any of those things. That's what the tape's for. And then you turn on the tape, and as you guys know, oh, by the way, it somehow gets even better. I don't feel like I'm being overreactive here when I say outside of Clowney, this is the best athlete that has ever played football at the University of South Carolina. I'm not saying he didn't win the amount of awards or the level of awards that George Rogers had. Athletically speaking, this is, I think, the second greatest athlete to ever come through this program. And it's a former 3-star from Irmo, South Carolina. If that doesn't make you proud, man, like, how cool is that? I know I'm nerding out. I know I'm yelling, but that's just so damn cool. It's just so cool. And I think it's one of those things too, guys, where it's like you watch this kid and you saw how much he meant to this program. And you saw how much he meant to the team and the production was there and the leadership was there. And everything that kid did, it's like, sometimes I feel like it's South Carolina, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes I feel like when I talk about South Carolina, like being from around the program, being from like living in Lexington and like used to live off like we're right behind that Monterey's that was off of UG and whatever street goes right of Founders, and living around this city. I used to live off B Avenue, let's live off Main Street. Like before that, I lived around the city for a while, and sometimes it feels like a bit of a bubble. What I mean by that is sometimes I feel like when you're talking about the state of South, that's not this, like the program at South Carolina, it's like we talk about it and we get excited about it. And we get excited when you go into bars and restaurants, you see pictures of old games and what happened at Stephen Garcia in 2010 against Bama, or like what Clowney did against Michigan, or like I said, the George Rogers 1980 Heisman season, or the Sandstorm game in 2009 against Ole Miss. And like, just there's certain moments where it's like, man, like it's so cool to talk about this, and it's exciting to us. And we know that Nick Emmanwori's great, and we know that Sellers is going to be great, and we know that all these different things. But then it's almost like then you let that out into the world, and it doesn't feel like everyone else sees what we see all the time, if that makes sense. It doesn't always feel like it feels like we're talking about it, but I'm not sure the rest of the country sees, knows, or cares how great the thing that we're seeing and what we're talking about is at all. And I know that's probably a little bit too deep for this conversation, but like that really is what it feels like at times. And to watch Emmanwori go out and and like take the entire NFL combine by storm and be the guy. Like it's only day 2 and you have 2 more days and you have quarterbacks tomorrow and whatever on Sunday. But it's awesome to sit here and think, like, when this is all done with, we're going to talk about that guy and his performance today, maybe above everyone else's. Him being a back end of the first round guy, he might have moved himself into the top 15. He might have moved himself even like further up. I talked to people close to the Saints today who have the number 9 overall pick, and they said that he's very much in play. And it's just really awesome. It's just really awesome to see a kid that meant so much to this program get to go out, chase his dreams, and really it felt like it's this confirmation bias that feels so good, because it's like we knew what that kid was going to do, and then everyone got to go see it, and everyone got to see what we see. And then I think the cooler thing, even outside of that, is there hasn't been a guy that's been in Indy wearing these colors or wearing that logo or with that degree as his alma mater that has had a bad showing. Emmanwori had a historic day. Josh Simon had a fantastic day. It wasn't historic. He's not going to have one of the top tight end performances of all time like Emmanwori had for safeties, but he had arguably the second best day and second best drills, combines, performances, on-field performances, of any tight end there. And it's really cool, because this is the kind of stuff you start seeing where, like, being taken seriously as a program, especially at the next level, where the goal is like winning games in college. But the easiest way to recruit kids to come to your school isn't, man, Sandstorm's awesome, right? It's not, man, like, will he be the light show and then coming out of the tunnel in 2001? Like, that's sick, right? It's not how much fun 5 points can be for a 18 to 22-year-old kid. It's getting kids and putting them in the league, winning games for 3 to 5 years while you're here, and then getting to the league. And South Carolina is becoming a program, you're seeing it right now in real time, it feels like this year becoming known for it. So, okay, let's take a quick break. I do want to go over a couple more things. I know I've gone way too long on this. I appreciate you guys listening. Before we go to break, I want to tell you a real quick shout out to our friends at Prize Picks. Now, listen, I'm recording this on February 28th. You're probably listening to this on March 1st. Hopefully you're listening to it at all. March basketball is here. There's no better way to get on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's fast, easy, and keeps every game exciting. Listen, this weekend, who's coming to town this weekend? I believe it's Ole Miss. But either way, Colin Murray-Boyles has been fantastic over the last several weeks. Love him over his rebounds, which is usually about 7.5 or 8. Love him over his points, which is between 14 and 16. Let's take both and win yourself some money over at Prize Picks. All you have to do is download the app today, use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, we're going to run our game to commercial. We'll be right back. Okay. Let's close out with what we saw today. Man, it's just so cool. It's just so cool to what we've seen, but I don't want to keep waxing poetic on it. But let's get to just a couple of things that happened just to put this all in perspective, okay? This is according to ESPN research, okay? Emmanwori is now just one of 4 players in the history of the Combine who is 6'3" or taller, have had a vertical over 40 inches, ran a sub 4.4, and had both those things in the same Combine since 2003. So since 2003, he is one of just 4 players, not just safeties, 4 players in general who had over a 40-inch vert and a sub 4.4 40. One of the other ones was DK Metcalf. If you saw their numbers side by side, I think Metcalf ran a 4.33, so it's 0.05 seconds faster than Emmanwori. He came in as an eighth of an inch shorter. I think they were the same size weight-wise, and he also had a vertical that was 3 inches shorter as well. So that was pretty cool. He's also the only safety at the combine since at least 2003 to have a sub 4.4 with at least a 40-inch vert and at least 11 feet in the broad jump. So again, like if like the benchmark is a 4.5, a 40-inch vert, and 11 feet on the broad jump, the kid went 4.38. The kid went 43 inches on his vert, and he went 11.6 on the broad jump. He is the only safety in the last 20 plus years, at least, to have done that, which is unbelievable. It's crazy to see. Now, the other thing was Josh Simon. Josh Simon, who that's a guy that went really unheralded a lot, it felt like, for most of the season, even though he put on one of the more impressive seasons of the year. I thought he was the second best tight end in the SEC behind Sowers from Vanderbilt. He just was so clutch. He became your premier guy in the passing game. His 40, he ran a 4.66. This is today. Ran a 4.66 40. He had a vertical jump of 38 inches and the broad jump of 10 feet 4 inches, so 124 inches overall. All three of those were second among tight ends at this year's combine. Huge day for him. Made himself some money as well. So after 2 days, guys, what we have seen is like it's really cool to see, because I think a guy like Tonka Hemingway, TJ Sanders, those are guys that aren't going to blow you away necessarily. Like I don't think like at that position, right? Like we saw a couple years ago, Jordan Davis from Georgia, who ran like a 4.78 or something crazy at his size. You're not going to see any of those guys do that. What you are going to see is 5 years of tape playing in the best league in the country and putting up ridiculous levels of athleticism and production at that position. Both of them had 4 sacks, but you're not going to see them go blow you away in a combine setting, especially at that position. Which is fine. It's fine. You have like the tape for that. But through the first 2 days, you've seen Demetrius Knight Jr. be one of the most athletic and one of the best all-around linebackers going through drills and running running the 40 and all that kind of stuff, running a 4.58. Then you were able to see what Emmanwori did today. You were able to see what Josh Simon did today. So you're talking about 4 different positions in the first 2 days that you've gone over, and you've had at least one guy stand out and be better than expected. Some be in the top 3 to 5 of their position across the board, and then one guy who is, historically speaking, set the bar higher than anyone else. And that's a really, really good feeling, because here's the thing. You know that before, without even going to the combine, you could tell what they have on tape. They're really well coached. They're fundamentally sound. They come from one of the best defensive minds in all of college football. And now you get to pair that and combine that with, oh, by the way, they're physical freaks as well. That's how you get them in the league, and that's how you get them in the league early off that draft board. So that is all today. I just jaw dropped. So make sure you guys have a great rest of your Friday night. Gamecocks bounce back tomorrow at 1:30 in game 2 of the series against Clemson. We'll be back after that to talk about it. And then also more combine stuff tomorrow as well. So go Cox. See y'all then.